Apex Legends is one of the biggest multiplayer games in the world. It's probably going to keep getting bigger and bigger thanks to EA's continued funding. It just kind of flies over the radar. Nobody talks about it. But with how much the game has changed, there are bound to be things that only the OGs remember. Welcome to ChaosGaming. Today, we're going to be checking out some things that only OG Apex Legends players will remember. You let me know if you fall into that category. Drop a like. Make sure you're following the page with notifications on. And let's start off with the OG Mozambique. Now, it's pretty weird to think about the fact that the Mozambique isn't that bad of a gun anymore. It's a dinky little shotgun pistol. It can actually do some juicy damage. It can, especially if you have the hop up. However, there's a reason why this gun became a meme in the early days. The original Mozambique was useless. Low damage, long reload, no hop up, 3 shots in the mag instead of 4 that we have today. It was complete and utter garbage, and you were better off running around and punching your enemies instead of trying to use it. You were. Now, it's been adjusted a few times, and like I said, it's actually not the worst gun anymore, but if you were playing Apex in the early days, you feel me. You definitely do. Next up, 64 shotgun ammo stacks. Now, shotguns are one of the most annoying guns to use in Apex Legends because of how much space their ammo takes. A stack of shotgun ammo maxes out at 16, which eats up your inventory space rather quickly. However, for the first few months of Apex Legends, you could carry this ridiculous 64 shells in one stack of shotgun ammo. This was one of the reasons why the shotguns were so popular. You could carry an entire army's worth of shotgun ammo in one slot. Now, Respawn rebalanced it to 16 shots today, but if you were a real OG, you know what I'm talking about. Those were the days. How about SloMo Lobbies? I remember this bug. Back in the early days of Apex, there was a bug either in the game or in the servers that would make lobbies move in complete slow motion. The entire lobby. It was probably the most obnoxious part of the entire game, but it was actually, well, it's kind of weirdly nostalgic now. Everybody always knew it was happening because the lobby countdown would be going really slow for some reason, and then once you dropped out of the ship and hit the ground, you realized you were in for a long, long game. The entire lobby would be moving in slow motion, and it took absolutely forever for this to be patched. It's very rare for this to happen now, but back in the first few months of Apex, you would get a SloMo lobby at least once an hour. What about solos? Remember that brief time when solos were a thing? Apex Legends is built from the ground up to be a team-based experience. The intended experience is trios, but Respawn, well, they put duos in as well. But there was a brief time when Respawn experimented with a solo playlist, and while a lot of people hated it, other people loved it. The game played super differently in solos, and honestly, I don't know. I don't really get it. Yeah, some characters were way stronger than others in the mode, Wraith maybe, but the mode was a lot of fun. It helped remedy the eternal problem of needing to play Apex with randoms. Now that crossplay is a thing and the player base is bigger, I'm hoping Respawn gives solos one more try because I know a lot of people would love to give it another shot. Who remembers the Peacekeeper floor loot? Yeah. Now the Peacekeeper has been a supply drop weapon for a couple seasons now, but for the first 6 seasons, it was floor loot, and it was strong. If you saw a Peacekeeper on the ground, it was basically an unwritten rule that you had to pick it up. If you weren't good with it, you weren't good at Apex Legends. That's how essential the gun was for the meta. Around a year ago, Respawn realized how powerful the Peacekeeper was and how much it was getting used to. So, I mean, instead of nerfing it, they decided to just make the supply drop weapon. I think it was a good call. Shotguns in general are in a much more balanced spot now than they used to be, but the OGs will remember when the Peacekeeper was everywhere. It was practically a default weapon. At number 5 today, Rampant Cheating. Now, it's probably a good thing that a lot of Apex players don't remember this, but in the early days, it was bad. If you were playing on PC, you were probably running into cheaters every 3 or 4 games on certain days. It was out of control. It was, and thankfully, EA and Respawn got on top of it rather quickly. But if you're an OG Apex player, you probably remember that short period where it seemed like cheaters were around every corner. You'd be running around and then boom, wall hacker. Boom, aimbotter. Boom, speed hacker. Cheaters were everywhere. Now you'll see a cheater every now and again, but it's way less common. Back in the early months, it was bad. It was toxic. At number 4, the OG Wingman. It was broken. Let's just put it that way. Anybody who used it will tell you that. It was ported over from Titanfall 2 pretty faithfully, if I might say so, but I don't think Respawn realized just how pivotal to the meta it was going to be. Originally, the Wingman had 6 shots in the mag, and the fire rate was way bigger. You could spam this thing like crazy, and it was dealing insane damage, even without the Skull Piercer attachment. Now, the OG Wingman was another weapon that you had to be good with. It wasn't an option. If you weren't good with the Wingman, you weren't good at Apex, kind of like the Peacekeeper. Eventually, Respawn decided the Wingman had become too central to the game's meta, so they reworked it. They dramatically lowered the fire rate, and they changed the ammo capacity a few times as well. Now, overall, it's in a much better spot, but back in the OG early days, it was dominant. You know what else was dominant? OP, overpowered, OG, Wraith. Now, Wraith has always been a very popular character, and while she's been annoying, it's been a while since she's been considered truly top tier. But when the game first came out, Wraith was considered by many to be completely overpowered because of how smaller her hitbox was and how quick her ability cooldowns actually were. This was back before Respawn made changes to characters' damage intake, so everybody was taking the same amount of damage all the time, which meant Wraith had a significant advantage over the rest of the cast because she was smaller. Today, Wraith's hitbox is still rather small, but she takes extra damage as a way to balance it. Plus, back in the day, Wraith's abilities activated much quicker, and her cooldowns were a lot faster, which allowed her to phase in and out of battle multiple times per fight. She also got a heavy speed boost while using her portal, which allowed her to completely disengage from fights that weren't going well for her. Now, Wraith used to be completely busted, but thankfully, she's in a much more balanced spot, and honestly, much less annoying right now. At number 2, crappy Mirage. Mirage is a fan-favorite character today thanks to his abilities and fun personality, but he had to be reworked a couple times over the game's life cycle to get there. When Apex first came out, Mirage was borderline useless and you never ever saw him online. He could only have one decoy out at a time, he couldn't control it, so it would just run in a straight line forever, and his ultimate ability just made him invisible for a few seconds. You didn't get the decoy party like you do now. Mirage was completely underpowered when Apex came out, and after a year on the market, Respawn finally gave him a complete overhaul. Today, he's a very popular character and he's super viable, so while it's great to see this character finally get some love, the OG players will remember just how far he had to come to get here. But at number 1, the original Kings Canyon. Now, there's mixed opinions now, but it's been altered over the last couple years, and a lot of people don't remember what it originally was. The first version of Kings Canyon was very different from the one in the game today. No cage, no Mirage Voyage, no containment, no gauntlet, no crash site. You get the picture. About half of Kings Canyon has been changed from its original version. While some people may like the new one, a lot of us miss the original. Maybe one day there will be an anniversary event. We'll get the OG Kings Canyon back because I know a lot of people that would like to go there. I have a lot of memories myself on the original map, and while I love that it's living on in new versions and it's constantly being reimagined, I want to play the original at least one more time, and I know I'm not alone there. And there you have it. Those are things that only OG Apex players will remember. Do you remember everything on this list? If you checked off all 10, drop a like. You are a true Apex OG. I'll see you soon.